This is a video for Rust Legacy, Beta or Alpha, depending on what you want to call it. And I'm doing the Southwest Factory Radtown, and I'm going to show you how I try to do it. I've put in a bunch of barricades and sealed off things as much as I could because there's 2 wolves in it, minimum, that make it hard to do it. I've also, I have it so where you can't hear the noise from in the game because all it is the noise of the stupid radiation indicator. So the first thing is we go in here. This building allows us not to be bitten or attacked. Go in, grab here and here. I'm not going to do it right now. I've been mapping it mostly lately. We go up here, grab those, come back down, go in here. There isn't anything back here. There are lots of places that seem to have stuff but don't. Look around. We go over here, we want to go in here, we grab this box here, and I put a box in the window here jammed in so that we can get up on top here and move around if we need to. Let's see if the game screws up. Now I put these panels here to reduce the likelihood of an animal getting to me. This is the next thing we go through. We're doing the least dangerous paths first. We go back here, grab this, this, and this, then double back. I closed off that pathway so that the wolves can't get me. Grab this, turn around immediately, go back out the way we came. And then we get to the next problem. Yes, I put in 2 walls here, and it's probably not going to help us. They're probably going to get me. Get in here, grab that, try to go through here, hope the wolves don't get me. There's 2 walls there, and they seem to teleport through the foundation pretty quickly. We go over here, and I die. Now I'm going to try respawning at camp, and I'll resume the video, but right now I'm going to pause it now. Now, hopefully it's recording now. As you can see, it's really difficult to do this, and I did this with no anti-rad pills and no anti-rad clothing. Now, out of the rad towns that we have, the factory rad town in the lower left, small rad town in the, we'll call it the south or central east side. It's just the small rad town. And the one at Hangar, we have a couple of locations. This one is the first really challenging radiation source besides the one labeled tanks, bound by Echo Valley down there in the south. The buildings, that's the one up there by Silk Valley, they have some radiation, and then there's Big Rad Town. I'll do a video later on that. So let's get the map off the screen, and let's go for it. Now I'm going to try to do this a little bit differently. That was most of it. Let's look at the false pathways first. First off, again, I've walled it in as much as I could, because if you don't, you're not going to get away with doing it. And we'll see why in a minute. These wolves back here they sprint back. Next thing I'm going to show you is when you jump up here, they just come up right through the cement and come after you. And no, closing the doors behind them doesn't lock them in place. So what I did was I took advantage of the fact that I could seal off a lot of this area and make it to where if they get stuck back here, they stay there. But again, they basically wall hack everything. Now, I'll respawn again. Sorry about that. Okay, so, wait a minute. Am I? Yeah, I am. Okay. Anyway, here we are. So, as you can see, now, I want to show you how I clear out the wolves. This is the last part of it. You might have noticed there's very few wolves out here, and yeah, that's someone's big-ass base. The 2 wolves, the only 2 wolves you need to give a shit about, are the ones that are back here that respawn rapidly if you shoot them, so there's no point in shooting them, and they run back here rapidly. You have to get them both aggroed on you. You run through. Don't even bother with armor, anti-rad pills, anything. And they won't follow you the full distance you run. Their purpose is to nag the hell out of you and guard the place. They're guard dogs. Not even sure why they have them be wolves when they're clearly guard dogs. I'm going to show you how to get as many of the animals as possible dragged, kicking and screaming out of their patrol area. The term patrol area or others are used in the video gaming industry for when you make a bot or an AI routine or an NPC walk a pattern or stay in a general area and use maybe a random number generator to make them move in certain ways or whatever. So what I do is I loop back and forth and take advantage of the fact that if I move a little bit every once in a while, just changing direction, this breaks off their ability to chase me, and they tend to slow down a bit so I can keep ahead of them so they can't absolutely outrun me every time. And I got bit. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to go up here, and I'm not going to make any attempt to get away from them. I'm just going to respawn, because there's no point in not doing so. Put the bags down. You got to get the bags. And get as many of them as possible to herd over here. I call it a radimal roundup. You can also try making a radimal ranch. That's where you wall in an area and make it like a giant fish trap. Go look up what a fish trap diagram is. And you basically get them to go somewhere where they'll just get stuck. Now in this case, they get themselves stuck. And we like that. If they get stuck on these rocks or anything like that, you need to use that to take advantage of them to get them to be over here instead of at the rad town where you're trying to collect stuff from the loot boxes. By the way, I really think it'd be really cool in some video game that someone put an actual instrument, the loot, inside of a box and call it a loot box, just to make people groan from the dad joke. There, I said it. So anyway, but yeah, other than that, not much to the video. Things I'm going to point out is the reason I'm using barricades, and you might have even noticed a expedient wood shelter, is because it tends to block the animals a little better. Now, the thing is, in the game, the creatures can be set to have a flag, it depends on the game engine, that says they do or do not have the ability to go through things. Like when I run through here, when I run through plants, shrubbery or whatever, I have an enabled setting in my character, in all characters, that says I am allowed to go through them by having no collision with certain things. You can do that for anything in the game. Someone set the collision setting for those items to not collide with the wolves, or set those specific wolves to not collide with anything. But it does slow them down or stop them a bit, sort of, as far as them going through the barricades, and yes, even the wood shelters, the survival shelters, because they're supposed to. And it's a minor rant here, but I'll just say it. A game that rigs itself so that you can't win by playing by the rules because it breaks them, I call that cheating. There's player versus player, PvP, player versus environment, PvE, which is what I'm doing here. And then there's player versus developer, or PvD. When developers rig the game against you and call it balancing, I call it cheating. That's player versus developer. You're fighting the developer of the game, which is fine. You can play against the game itself. That's not a bad thing. But in 2013 or so, when Gary and the others built this game, they made sure that everything in the game is designed to cheat. And that creates a sunk cost fallacy in most people, and they don't want to give up playing the game even though the game is not going to let them have a fair shake. And that's kind of a learned helplessness thing. Video games, in my opinion, should not teach you to put up with being victimized. It should not teach you to put up with or adapt to a situation that's really horrible like that. And this is pretty bad. It's not the worst. This is just a video game, obviously. But I don't like that it kind of almost sends a message that you're just supposed to take it. Life is like that, and I understand that. But in an organized game, I find it offensive. But that's just me getting offended and triggered and blah, blah, blah. And I got bit on the butt. The other thing is the game allows the monsters to attack you with a ranged weapon called biting you at 14 feet. That shouldn't be able to happen, and it wouldn't really happen if they were being more realism-based, which is okay. At least they're not realism-based about the rest of the game, which would make it miserable and unplayable. So, okay, fine. But still, it's a bit upsetting. And we jump in the water or on the rocks and die immediately. Anyway, that's it for the video for today. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And this has been a video about basically barricading the factory rad town and or rounding up the animals so that you can try to run it without being attacked as often. Goodbye.